You said you'd come. Now let's hope you're not too late.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Long talks. Long talks.
Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it.
Long talks. Long talks.
Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it.
Long talks. Long talks.
Talk just a little bit, just for the sake of it. Say what you think of it.
Welcome to Jumanji.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 68 of the Wulong Talks podcast. Hi, my name's Jason. I'm the host of the show, as you know by now. And I'm joined, as usual, by the Rustin Kid, a.k.a. Rich Kid. Rich Kid, say what's up?
Good evening, guys.
Yeah, and it's been a while, but we're back, man. As you guys know by now, who've been following us on social media, the last couple of weeks and month really has been tricky. I've had a lot on my plate to be kind of juggling at the moment. So is Rich, but we're still around, we're still alive, and we're kicking and we're ready to go, basically. It is one of those things, as said, that just kind of happens from time to time. But that's life. You all have lives as well. You know how these things work. So it is what it is. But as I said, we ain't going nowhere. We're still right here, and we've got plenty of content for you coming up over the next couple of weeks and months as well. So we'll be back in the game in a big way. But first of all, as said, Rich Kid, glad to have you back, bro. As usual, what you've been up to? Have you been checking out anything geeky lately? Doing anything?
Yeah, good to be back. I've actually been consuming quite a bit of geekism since last time we were on air, and I've been the stuff I've been watching, and yes, I haven't been reading anything, but stuff I've been watching, I've been really impressed. And some of the stuff I have been watching was almost like I feel a bit of an idiot because they've been out for ages, and I would just refuse to watch it because it's super, super popular, and everyone told me that it was good, like you're one of them. And I was like, man, maybe sometimes I should stop being stubborn, and I could have just watched this ages ago.
Okay.
So basically, that's in regards to One Punch Man, which has been out for a good little while, and everyone's been saying how it's been really, really good. And I just couldn't see it. I was like, I'm not sure how a show can just rely on one joke. And I'm not even joking. I put the first episode on, and the beginning when all this there's like this explosion and stuff like that. And the animation was just really, really good. And then it showed him fighting the monster and punching it and all that stuff. And he's just like, how he's all depressed. And the intro kicked in, and I was like, fuck, I like this show already. I'm like 5 minutes in. Yeah, so I had to. I turned into a bit of an arse. And walked around looking like a donkey, Jay told me to watch this ages ago. Yeah, so thank you very much for that. And I'm finishing Jessica Jones season 3. I like to write. I don't binge watch as much as I should do because of the type of thing that we guys do. But I've noticed, man, when I binge watch, I tend to miss a lot of things. I don't really start paying attention to the shows. If I binge watch, I'll start picking up my phone and leaving the room and stuff like that. But if you watch episode by episode, you take more in. So that's why it's taking me so long to watch Jessica Jones. But it's a fucking amazing season, man. It was really, really good, and it just reminds me that it makes me upset about how they cancelled the Marvel Netflix shows. So yeah. But we're gonna have replacements soon, so we'll talk about that later on in the show as well.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, I flipping loved that Netflix Marvel universe, and I was hurt when it all got cancelled. But as you said, apart from Iron Fist, nobody's gonna miss Iron Fist. But as you said, we got some big news out of San Diego Comic-Con, and we'll jump right into that as soon as peeps. But Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you're finally getting into One Punch Man. You know, and going back to that, actually, you know what sealed it for me was the second episode, the beginning of the second episode,
Yeah.
where he gets bothered by the mosquito.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is so funny. I was like, this show is just hilarious. Like, how have they managed to make this show so funny? Like, this show is better than a lot of comedy movies I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah, yeah,
recently.
yeah.
So, you know, I was really impressed by One Punch Man. I've finished season 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, just patiently awaiting to see what happens next. I won't go into any details of that yet because obviously you haven't seen it yet. So yeah, you can get into that as well. But yeah, One Punch Man is amazing. I mean, listeners, for those of you who listened to the previous podcast, you know I did an episode where I talked about some of the anime stuff that I've been watching with my little boy.
Yeah.
And you know how I've kind of been getting into a lot of stuff, and you know, I'm really enjoying it at my anime again at the moment. I don't know why it is, but I'm just really kind of getting into my anime and really loving it. I've recently started rewatching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because I never really finished it.
Okay.
And yeah, it's bonkers, man. It's exactly like how I remember it. It's just like it's one of those animes that you're either going to love it or absolutely hate it. There's no like kind of middle ground with it, because it's just so balls out crazy that like it will literally, you'll either watch it and go, oh my god, this is the weirdest, wildest thing ever, and I love it, or you're going to be like, what the hell is this? So yeah, it is one of those. But yeah, no, I've been really enjoying JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What else have I done recently? There's another one I started watching, and the name of it just really escapes me at the moment. But there's one that Gate. Sorry, yeah, Gate. I think it's called. And it's like there's a gate that opens to like a parallel universe where all these other beings start invading Japan, and they're like kind of trolls and fairies and witches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's actually quite good. I mean, I've only watched the second episode, so I haven't got that far in. So once I'm a bit further in, I'll probably do like a little mini review or something of it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't mind Gate at all. Yeah, it's really good. And I finished Angels of Death as well, which is one that I talked about on the previous podcast, which is just wild crackers, but really good actually. Really enjoyable. It's one I don't know if you know, Rich, but it's one basically where the lead character, a woman named Rachel, is wakes up in the basement of some type of building, and she's got quite limited memories. And she realizes that she's being stalked by a serial killer down there. And then kind of her and the serial killer kind of clash, but then they kind of come to an agreement that the serial killer can kill her if he helps her escape from the building that she's in. So they're kind of trying to work out how to get out of this building, and on every level there's like some psychopath that's trying to kill the both of them. Yeah, and it's kind of it is as crazy as it sounds. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I mean, the animation style was it was kind of old school in a way, actually, which I don't mind. You know, we're both kids of a certain age. Well, I say kids, we're men. Like, don't get it twisted, we're men people. But you know, we're both of a certain age, and we remember, obviously, you know, the anime explosions, both from sort of like the early 80s, and then that kind of second wind in the early 90s, and you know, so we know kind of that those types of anime styles that were popular in those periods. And Angels of Death really kind of taps into that kind of visual style, which works surprisingly for the story, because even though the story is quite modern, it does kind of have that that almost mid-90s kind of feel to the plot and the characters. So yeah, that's definitely worth checking out if you haven't checked it out already, listeners. And yeah, it's a good watch.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, as you know, we had San Diego Comic-Con recently pass us by, and to be honest, for like film and TV news, there's a lot of Blair stuff that we weren't really interested in. But the stuff that really piqued our interest is the stuff of course, from Marvel Studios. They had a massive panel at Hall H this year. Those of you who keep abreast of these things will know they skipped it last year because they were still working on Avengers Endgame and Infinity War at the time. But this year we got like a whole information dump. So what we're going to try and do is work our way through some of the movies and the TV shows that have been confirmed to be coming out up until 2022. We'll give you our take on some of the titles, and I know there was quite a few people as well who were maybe confused or weren't quite sure like who some of the characters were that were being featured in some of these films and why. So me and Rich will give you our kind of take on it. Rich, as you know, is our walking, talking comic book encyclopedia. So I'm sure he'll be able to give us some comic book context behind a lot of the information that we got, and I'll do my best to chime in with little bits of stuff as well. But yeah, Rich, how do you want to do this, man? Should we go films and then TV, or do you want to do it like in release date order?
No. Let's just do films and TV. Release date,
Yeah.
release date won't really make any form of difference.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, then. Well, we'll crack on with the movies. So the first panel that we got was one for the upcoming Black Widow movie. This is a solo movie that will be coming out. I think it's due out in May of 2020. Yeah, I think it's May. They said, but anyway, so obviously this story will feature Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. We didn't find out a lot about the story itself, although there was apparently a mini trailer was played for people who were in attendance. Okay. This trailer hasn't been released online by Marvel, which is not uncommon. They generally don't do that. Sometimes, they'll simultaneously release them, but generally they prefer to keep, the footage they show at Hall H kind of secret, so to speak. But there was a lot of descriptions flowing around online. So if you haven't read any of those, listeners, you can go and check one of those out and get up to speed. But the movie is set obviously in the past, so it looks like it's kind of set before. I think it's before Iron Man 2. So it's actually going way back. Yeah. So before kind of Black Widow's first appearance in the MCU in Iron Man 2. Black Widow will take place before then. I'm not 100% sure like how many years it is. They didn't really give that much information about it. Again, I guess because it's potentially spoilers. But what we do know is that this film will kind of track Black Widow's early beginnings as a spy in Russia. It will show kind of how the process that she went through in order to get there, and then kind of why she ended up leaving. The cast looks pretty stacked on it as well. There's a lot of people in there. I mean, there's Rachel Weisz is in it, which is like jaw dropping to me. I was like, Rachel Weisz, flipping hell, like and there was quite a few of those. Sorry,
she hasn't been around for a little while as well.
Yeah. I mean, she's kind of done some indie stuff, like really small indie stuff, and I think she did a stage show, but that was about it. She really hasn't done any massive mainstream stuff. For a while. So I was like, wow, okay. Florence Pugh is playing Yelena Belova. Rich can explain who Yelena is in a bit. And David Harbour from Stranger Things, Chief Hopper, is Alexei Shostakov, I think his name is. And isn't he the Red Guardian, I think he's called, or something like that?
Red Guardian.
Yeah. So, Rich, I mean, if you don't mind, just to explain a little bit about, who particularly those two characters are, Yelena Belova and the Red Guardian, because they're quite significant potentially to the story, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll start with Red Guardian. I mean, from what I can remember of him, he's almost like the Captain America, but in an iron suit. So it's like basically Captain America, Iron Man kind of character. He's basically. Oh wait, hold on. Red Guardian's the one of like he's not the one in the actual suit, because there's basically. So I'm getting mixed up, listeners, because they have their own. The Russians have their own versions of the Avengers. And And basically, what it is, at some point in the comic books, I think there was one writer, and he was like, "Yeah, it would just make sense that all these countries would have their own superhuman characters or superhuman like soldiers or heroes, and some might even be mutants, and there might be some that we might actually create and stuff like that." So they had their version of Captain America, their version of Iron Man. Um, there was a lady called Dark Star that I remember who could control the same dark matter that is actually inside Tyrone.
Right, right.
Like the guy who plays Cloak from Cloak
Yeah,
and Thunder.
Cloak. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got their team, but they've, even though they're a superhero team, they're a lot more connected to their government. So they're a lot more like KGB kind of like stroke rogue agents as well. So they do a lot of the dark stuff. So it's going to be interesting because I want to know if basically I mean that's going to mean that the type of training that Natasha's going to get in Black Widow movie is going to be crazy. We're going to be seeing like maybe hopefully crazy superheroes in another country. We've only ever seen just Americans. I mean, like, that's it. We know there's like, in the comic books there's groups like Excalibur which are based in London. You've got Alpha Flight, which is based in Canada. Then you had Big Hero 6, which was based in Tokyo, and it all had their own unique take on things because of where the country they all came from and their different types of training, different culture. So yeah, I'm really interested to see if they're really going to make it seem like this is based in Russian culture as to how they deal with things, or is it just going to be like they're just put in a place and they just happen to speak Russian? It's like, yeah, they speak Russian, just Russian, that's it. I don't know if they take really, really important Russian things that if a Russian person was to watch it, they'd be like, yeah, that probably seems about right. That would happen. So, yes, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound really interesting. It sounds like we're gonna get, very much a spy movie, obviously. And given how well the MCU did its last spy movie with the Winter Soldier, it definitely, if they take a leaf out of that book, it definitely sounds like we're getting something really exciting.
Yeah.
One of the rumors that's been flying around is that the villain of the piece will be Taskmaster.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. I mean, for those of you listening who know Taskmaster, you'll know why we're excited by that, because boy, all bets are off if that's the case.
Yeah.
But again, Rich, for the benefit of people who don't really know Taskmaster, I mean, I suppose if you played the Spider-Man game, the recent Spider-Man PS4 game, you might know a bit. But yeah, for comic book kind of context, like, who is Taskmaster and why are we so excited?
Listen, it would be my fucking pleasure to tell you that. Like, the thing is, he's just this. I don't even remember like the back. I don't remember like his real name or anything like that. I can't remember. No, in fact, yeah, he's got like a really, really tragic story. He's actually a good guy. You find out like later on down the line, like he's actually a good guy. But because he's so good at what he does, the missions that they send, when they recruited him, the government, the missions that they were sending him on started to have like really bad effect on him. And he was like, he preferred, I think he's like, I prefer to be mind wiped after each thing. But then somehow in the mind wipe, he's got this own persona. And that persona is a bit of a dick and like tends to do bad stuff. But generally, he's a good guy and used to work for Shield. But the power that Taskmaster has is that he can, anything he sees, he can mimic. So naturally, no matter where he goes, he's either going to be training people. So he's like the main trainer for, I think, the agents of, I think, is AIM and Hydra. Like he's taught everybody. So, and it doesn't have to be like he has to fight somebody to figure out how they move and stuff like that. No, he can literally just watch a videotape and he'll just learn the body language of that person, and he's then able to fight like that person. So he's been able to go toe to toe with Captain America, Spider-Man. I remember reading a comic book, and basically it's one of the things where this amazing gift, which the reason why we're so excited is because, like Jason said, we've seen what they've done with the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier versus Captain America, that's easily one of the best fights for me put on screen, full stop, let alone just in like one of the Marvel movies or like a superhero movie. It's just it just plays to the character. So I'm looking what they've done with that. So you're literally gonna be seeing this guy maybe getting into a fight, doing like a boxing stance, then maybe straight into like a Thai boxing stance, then maybe into a Wing Chun stance. It's gonna be beautiful to look at if they do something like that. Yeah, that's just gonna be crazy. Like that's gonna be like John Wick times 10. I'm watching it just for Taskmaster. I'm just gonna be brutally honest.
Yeah. Well, the description of the footage that we got as well made it sound like the fight scenes are off the chain. I mean, apparently they're going for the John Wick style
Yeah.
with the action scenes.
Mm.
So if they can get half of that right,
Yeah.
then we're in for a good look. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
So what I was gonna say is that
yeah.
basically when there's two people that he's actually afraid to fight, and funnily enough, one of them isn't Captain America.
Mm,
He can go toe to toe with Captain America easy, but the first one is Moon Knight. And the reason why I'm actually bringing those two up as well is because if they're bringing Taskmaster into the MCU, there has been this rumor for years that they're trying to figure a way to bring Moon Knight onto the scene as well. And basically Moon Knight's like another vigilante who patrols around New York and actually travels quite a lot as well. And Taskmaster doesn't like fighting Moon Knight because Moon Knight's literally crazy. He's got like I think some like 14 different personas. He's got schizophrenia. So his style is so erratic that there'll be some styles that he'll be like using, but it will involve him just like stabbing himself with his own sword if the person's behind him. And that type of language is like the way how Taskmaster describes it, is that when he fights and he's taking someone else's style, it just starts to flow too naturally. So he's prone to do that kind of stupidness as well. So he's like, yeah, nah, I don't want to do that. And then the other one was basically Deadpool. And he said just because Deadpool is just batshit crazy. He said that how they break it down is that whenever Taskmaster walks into a room, he sees all these algorithms as to like what would happen if this fell off here and so forth and everything like that. And he said he just looks at Deadpool and he just sees nothing because he's just fucking crazy. He's like, yeah, I don't want to fight that guy as well. And those are obviously two characters. Well, one of them is already in the MCU. Well, we're waiting for him to come into the MCU at some point. And then one of them is being rumored to where they're trying to get him into it. So Moon Knight, yeah, could be, yeah, and Taskmaster and all those things. I'm excited. I really hope this Black Widow movie opens up a whole different avenue of movies that we're going to be getting now. Not just like the one Winter Soldier, but we'll get like a bunch of spy superhero movies. I'm really interested.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I'll freely admit, listeners, up until this point, I really wasn't that interested in the Black Widow movie. I kind of felt like the Black Widow character was not treated that well, particularly in Avengers Endgame. And it just kind of felt like they'd missed their window of opportunity to me. Like it was just too late to try and do this now. But again, having read the information and, having seen the presentation and stuff, I'm like, you know what, sign me up. Like I'll be there, especially as you said, if Taskmaster's involved as well. And that means potentially we're getting a fight between Black Widow and Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm in. You know what I mean? I'm in. You've sold me. So yeah, I'm good to go. So we can expect Black Widow to land with us, as said, in May 2020, and we'll be there to see it. And we assume you will be too. Now, the next film that's due out will be in November of 2020, and this is the one that I think people are most kind of like, what about? And that's the Eternals. Now, I'll freely admit I don't know a heck of a lot about the Eternals. I know they're a Jack Kirby creation, and I know there's historically they were experiments, I think, from the Celestials or something like that. Like the Celestials came to Earth, and experimented on them. I mean, basically, this is all stuff. Like, I'll let Richard jump in a minute and explain, because he'll probably explain this a lot better than I can. But it sounds the most intriguing to me of the movies that they're bringing out, and partly because the casting is just so diverse, and not just in terms of the ethnicities of the people who've been cast, but because they've gone with dramatic actors, they've gone with comedic actors, they've gone with unknowns, they've gone one of the characters is deaf, and the actress is actually a deaf actress who's playing the role, so she'll be signing her part of the film. They've really kind of gone balls to the wall with this one. So yeah, Rich, I mean, as said, as much clarity as you can provide on the Eternals would be greatly appreciated. So yeah, if you can just let the people know, where they kind of came from, I guess from a creative point of view and from a comic book point of view, like where did the Eternals, kind of come from, and how do they fit into the picture of the Marvel universe, basically?
Yeah, so basically the Eternals are, well, we'll have to, like you mentioned before, the Celestials. So the funny thing is that the MCU so far has only we've seen. In fact, we have seen Celestials. We've seen Celestials in
they were in. They featured a little bit in Guardians.
Guardians. Yeah, they're like a flashback.
Yeah.
So basically, the Celestials are these celestial beings. Originally, they thought that there were meant to be 12 of them, and then each one was able to do a particular thing. So I think the first judge would come down to a planet. No, basically, so they'd birth these celestial eggs and put them in a planet, and then basically they'd leave and they'd just go around all these planets and just put these celestial eggs in. And what the celestial eggs do is that they affect each planet that's been birthed in a different way. So, for example, you've got our Earth planet. We have the ability to have mutants and to, if that person is affected in a particular way, be able to be superhuman powered, as opposed to, say, like, some normal humans on a planet who, let's say, if they were hit by a large amount of gamma radiation, they wouldn't be able to channel the genes to turn into a character like the Hulk. They'd physically die. But we have that ability to create our own superhuman humans with external forces. Other planets don't. Okay, so basically what happens, the Celestials drop eggs in their planets and they come back, say, like, millions of years later to see how they progressed. And what happens is that if that planet hasn't passed what they deem to be evolutionary fit, they then send someone down. They send another Celestial down to come and basically destroy the planet. So they've got like 12 judges, and each judge has like a particular job that they have to do. So one person destroys the planet, one person passes judgment, one person comes to observe the planet, and so forth. And the Eternals are basically an offshoot of us. So they're almost like they predate any form of our type of humans being able to create superhumans. They were just born with these powers, and they were deemed worthy by the Celestials, and then they basically moved away and did their own thing. But what it is that they've always meddled in the history of our humans. So when you read the legends of like Greek heroes such as Icarus and Athena and Zeus and everything like that, they are those characters. They're basically like they came down and they meddled and did a couple of things, and then stories were told about them. But it's also the same thing with the Olympians. So the Olympians and the Eternals, they've kind of meddled in each other's own history because they've all got characters which are similar to each other. So yeah, but yeah, the Eternals, they were created by Jack Kirby. And he just wanted to bring in just a whole new different race of people, that just original characters of his own, of something that he just created by himself. So if you see for Marvel, he created the Eternals, and for DC, he created the New Gods, which is where you get characters like Darkseid, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and all those type of characters. But basically the Eternals were just his thing of like just really trying to do something different and new, and they didn't really appear in Marvel comics until afterwards. And they've got like a really, really strong cult following, because like it's just some of like Kirby's best work. Although like I've noticed that the DC readers won't like the Marvel readers, and the Marvel readers won't like the DC readers, because they'll be like, well, these characters are just knockoffs of each other. But I'm interested to see how they're going to be brought into the MCU, because we kind of even have our own set of those super powered people anyway in the Guardians,
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
we?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's gonna be It's gonna be interesting. I used to read a couple of comics that had some of the characters appearing in it because they're the type of character. The Eternals are the type of characters that they got bored and they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go and just do this. Like I said, they've always meddled in the history of the humans. So sometimes certain characters have been part of like the Avengers. I'm sure like one of them has been part of like the Fantastic Four at some point. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to see what spin they're going to use to bring him in because it's not going to be easy.
No, no,
No.
definitely not. I mean, it's as you said, they've kind of always been there in the Marvel universe, certainly
Mm,
in comic books. But because they're so kind of ubiquitous as characters, it's hard to kind of pin down exactly what they are. So I suppose
mm,
in a way it means that the MCU can use a certain amount of creative license, I guess, and kind of just tinker around with the characters
yeah.
to maybe fit the way that their universe is structured. But yeah, you're right. It'll be fascinating to see kind of how they play out in their own movie, and assuming that the events of their movie has knock-on effects on other movies, then how will that affect, as you said, like New Asgard, that's based on Earth now, where we've got Asgardians on Earth. And how will humanity react when they realize there's basically these godlike beings living amongst them and have been for hundreds of years, which is what is being suggested by the panel. But as mentioned, the cast in here is really, really diverse. We've got Angelina Jolie, who's playing Fina. I think she was rumored for a long time for this movie, so I think
Yeah.
we're kind of expecting that. We've got Richard Madden as Icarus,
Mm.
Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo. We
Who's
got
looking jacked, by the way.
yes,
Yeah,
crazy
you
Jack.
showed me that, Jay. I was like, really? He's jacked. I was like, okay.
Listeners, if you haven't seen him yet, just Google Kumail Nanjiani jacked and look at those images that come up, dude. It's insane. Um, but yeah, he's looking ripped, seriously ripped. We got Brian Tyree Henry from Atlanta as Fastos. And we've got Salma Hayek as well, playing Ajak. We've got as mentioned before, Lauren Ridloff is playing Makari, who's a deaf character. And the others are Don Lee. I don't know him, but apparently he's a Chinese actor, and he's
Okay.
playing Gilgamesh. And there's a newcomer called Leah McHugh who's playing a character called Sprite. So yeah, there's a lot, like there's a stacked out cast here. And as said, that unfortunately we don't know a huge amount of what they're planning with the movie as yet. But there's a lot to be kind of, as I said, get the brain cells going and get you thinking about where they're going to go with this movie and how it's going to impact other Marvel movies going forward. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the Eternals. Definitely, I'm definitely looking forward to it. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out. That will be out on November the 6th, 2020. So yeah, we've got quite a way to go still for that, unfortunately. But it is what it is, man. If we're patient, they'll bless us. And speaking of blessings, boy, the next movie, well, this one was kind of funny because watching the panel, they called the director up on stage, and then Kevin Feige said, this is the movie we're going to be working on, and it came up with the name Shang-Chi, and it just showed Shang-Chi, and people were kind of like, huh, okay, what's Shang-Chi? And then like they slowly revealed the rest of the title and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and then everybody in the audience went nuts. So for those that don't know, Shang-Chi is basically a martial artist who's from China, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know kind of what group affiliations he has in the comics. I know he's popped up a little bit in I think the first Civil War as a character.
Yeah.
He popped up in that.
He
But
was in Heroes
generally
for
he's
Hire.
yes, he was in Heroes
Yeah.
for Hire. That's right. Yeah.
Mhm.
But generally he kind of is a character that is really, really niche, as in, like, you know, he was created, I think, in the 70s, wasn't it,
Yeah,
around the
yeah.
sort of martial arts movie craze in the United States, and Marvel tried to kind of take advantage of that. Um, and yeah, you know, he's a highly skilled martial artist. We don't know a lot about the plot of this particular movie, but
Mm.
we do know that, as with the name of the Legend of the Ten Rings, that the villain of this movie will be the Mandarin. Now, that name will probably be familiar to you, especially if you're a fan of the Marvel movies, because you'll know there were a lot of references to the Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Now, in that movie, it turned out that the person who supposedly was the Mandarin was actually an actor, and had been hired by the bad guy of that movie to kind of play that role. That was a controversial decision, to say the least. For me, it kind of annoyed me a bit.
Yeah.
But for other people, it worked. You know, so I could see it was one of those kind of gambles that you take creatively sometimes that can go 50-50. But you know, the news that the Mandarin is coming back really kind of excited people in Hall H, and I think excites us as well. And the fact that he's going to be played by a fucking legend of Hong
Mm-hmm.
Kong cinema in Tony Leung Chua.
God damn.
Like, wow, that how Marvel managed to pull that casting off, I don't know. But you know what? Kudos to them, man. Listen, the House of the Mouse, man.
Yeah.
That Disney money, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Disney money. They was like, hey, listen, come, come. We need to talk.
Think about it. Like Tony Leung, would you say that in China, let's say when studios in China approach him for a film, like he's the RDJ of
Yeah,
China.
yeah. That's a fair comparison.
You know, like he's got that power. Like you know, we saw that Instagram post the other day of like how much RDJ had made from Iron Man all the way up to Endgame.
Mm.
And then we were talking about how much power he's had, like, you know, how he also got this, you know, the crew members all pay rises because he said that he had, Tony Long's that guy. This, yeah, that's a big move that Disney have pulled off, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute legend. For
Yeah.
those of you who don't know him, you know, you can check out loads of his work because, as I said, he's been working for many, many years in Chinese and Hong Kong cinema. And as I said, the man's just an absolute legend. I mean, going back to like Hard Boiled.
Oof.
You know, the character he played in Hard Boiled, who was called Tony, which was kind of lazy.
Yeah. No,
but-
Jackie was called Jackie.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the screenwriters are like, what should we call him? Oh, fuck it, just call him Tony. But yeah, you know, he was in Hard Boiled. He was brilliant in that. He was in God, what's the Hong Kong name of the original movies that The Departed are based on?
Oh, Infernal Affairs.
Infernal Affairs. That's it. Yeah,
God
Infernal
damn.
Affairs. You know, he did a lot of work with Wong Kar-wai as well, who's a very famous filmmaker.
2049.
Yeah.
Raise the Red Dragon. Was it Raising the Red Dragon Lanterns or something?
Raise the Red Lantern, I think it's
Raise the
called.
Lantern,
Yeah.
that's it.
There's that movie Happy Together as well, which was quite a groundbreaking movie when you think about it, and that came out in like 1998. And you know, that was about a Chinese gay couple trying to kind of save their relationship. And yeah, as said, for 1998, that was pretty groundbreaking for China. So yeah, you know, the guy's got so many screen credits. So for them to be able to capture him to play the Mandarin is amazing. Our Shang-Chi is an actor who's not really known to me, a guy called Simu Liu, who apparently is in a Canadian web series. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, listeners, but if you Google his name, it will probably come up there. But yeah, I don't know a huge amount of him, but I do know that he is, as well as an actor, is a martial artist and a stunt performer. So, and I know that, you know, throughout the casting process for Shang-Chi, they were adamant that, you know, they had to get somebody, you know, who was Asian of Chinese origin, or Chinese background, and, you know, and could do martial arts as well as act. and they saw a lot of people. And apparently, I mean, the actor himself came out on stage and said, like, he got cast on, I think it was the Sunday before Comic-Con, and then
Oh,
they phoned
serious?
him the next day. It was like, yeah, you need to pack a bag, you're going to San Diego on
Oh, gee.
Saturday. So I don't know how serious he was being about that, but that's what he said happened. But yeah, so he will be our Shang-Chi. And we have Aquafina as well, the
Yeah.
rapper and actress. She will be playing a character in the movie, although it's not been confirmed who she's playing. So, Rich, again, you know, from sort of the comic book perspectives, kind of where could you possibly see this story going? Because I don't know any, you know, I've read a couple of Shang-Chi books, but I don't really know any like major storylines or anything like that he's been involved in. So do you think they're likely to go back to his original sort of books from the 70s for inspiration, or do you think they might try and just, you know, create their own storyline and then feature the Mandarin in it?
No, I think they'll go back to that, the 70s type of thing. This is gonna be like you look at what they've done of Black Widow, right? Or like or what we think or what we're hoping that they're gonna do with Black Widow, where like I said, it's gonna be set in a particular period, but also in a different setting that we're used to seeing. So, you know, hopefully we'll have that Russian feel of like this is how the Russians dealt with things, and you know, we get an insight into them. So I think the best thing for them to do with Shang-Chi is to keep it that, you know, in that period or that type of setting, but like how, or maybe deal with it like how the Winter Soldier did, you know, had that 70s feel, but is at the same time everything was just so up to date, so everything made sense. So that'd be cool, because essentially the thing is the character of Shang-Chi when he's actually operating in Britain, or the Britain have like rule, still have like over China. So like China was still the part of the British Empire at that point. I think when did China gain its independence from UK? Was it what, 95 or 90?
Oh, what? Sorry, you mean Hong Kong?
Sorry, Hong Kong. Sorry, yeah, Hong
Yeah.
Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong, I think, yeah, the handover was 1995, I think it
Yeah,
was, or 96. I
yeah,
could be wrong, but yeah, I think it's either 95 or 96.
yeah. So basically, you know, is Shang-Chi was out around that period when that, you know, and he's of Chinese descent. Um, and he's a martial artist, so they're obviously trying to cash in all these things of like, you know, the Bruce Lee, you know, introduction, and that's brought martial arts to us. But they were like, you know what, we're not gonna base it on like Bruce Lee from like, you know, Way of the Dragon or the Big Boss. We're gonna go for the Bruce Lee that was in Enter the Dragon. And I'm not sure if a lot of you listeners know, but basically when they created Enter the Dragon of Bruce Lee, he was their attempt at doing a Chinese version with, you know, or martial arts version of James Bond. So with Shang-Chi, he was, you know, that martial artist, and he ended up basically working for MI6. And then basically there was like a specific department that was even more higher up than MI6 that he used to work for, and he was kind of like their assassin, kind of like secret agent who would go and sort things out for them. Although he only did it for them because he found out that his dad was like this major crime boss who had his hands and fingers in all different types of pies, including things with Hydra, AIM, and at some point it was based on a character of Fu Manchu, who's almost also like a famous Chinese villain hero that's been written back in the day. But then Marvel lost the rights, and so they had to change that. They weren't allowed to use the name, but they wanted to keep that same type of like mysticism. So even like the character Fu Manchu, he was like a Chinese version of Doctor Doom, who was like super smart. Didn't really use his physical strength to take people down, but if he did, he would be able to. He could do magic, he could do science. He was just an amazing guy. So you had, you know, Shang-Chi chasing these type of things. So in the way how Marvel have listened and at the people who were upset and how they dealt with the Mandarin in the comic books, I think they're really going to go balls to the wall with that villain for Shang-Chi. I reckon this film's going to be fucking epic.
Yeah.
It's going to be epic. It's just, if this is going to be a martial arts film, that's it. It has to be. It has to be. I want it to be John Wick.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a flat out martial arts movie. I mean, from all the casting calls they've been putting out, and you know, from all the kind of noises that Kevin Feige's been making, this sounds like it's just going to be a flat out, like Black Widow is as a spy movie with superheroes. I think this is going to be a martial arts movie with superheroes effectively. which is awesome. You know, I mean, one of the things that I love about this phase and what Marvel have been doing is, you know, they've been happy to kind of try out different genres and try out different styles, and so they're, you know, they're still obviously Marvel Studios, and you know they have their formula, and some people like it and some people don't. But one thing they always try to do is to try and add some different layers and elements to a movie, so that it feels like, you know, a romantic comedy, or you know, it feels like a space opera, or it feels like a spy thriller, or it feels like, you know, something else. So this really feels like it's going to be you know, the martial arts movie that we've been waiting for from the MCU. And yeah, I'm really excited for it, man. Really excited. And as said, you know, the addition of the Mandarin is just brilliant. And just quickly, Rich, as well, the you know, the 10 rings of the title, what does that refer to?
Well, the 10 rings refer to the rings of the Mandarin. So in the comic book, the Mandarin was basically this character with, I think it was just like a lowly villain who was basically just got caught up in like a bad heist. And what happened is that he was trapped in a cave. And in this cave, there was like one ring. If I remember correctly, I think he found one ring, and then that ring then basically had a particular power, so he could control fire, but it made him super smart and quite strong as well. But then the ring then tells him that there's other rings that are available. So then he then goes in search of like the 9 other rings that make up the 10 rings, and the 10 rings basically when all worn at the same time, he's just like super powerful. Like each ring has like a particular gemstone from one place that and it draws power from like different dimensions. So one will be able to control fire, one will give telekinesis, telepathy, one will allow him to fly. So basically the legend of the 10 ring, or the, you know, the level of the 10 rings, the Mandarin basically uses to control his not even crime gang, his crime empire. So yeah, so we've already seen that he's got quite a few fingers and pies spreading throughout the Marvel universe. I'll be really interested to see if they're going to be even bigger than, say, like what Hydra pulled off.
Yeah, that was really cool. They showed in the panel a kind of quick montage of you know, obviously scenes from Iron Man 3, but then Kevin Feige said, "Oh, hold on a minute. You know, you may think you know everything about the 10 rings, but actually they've been here a long time." And then he showed us like footage from different movies, like Ant-Man. I forgot what else they showed as well. Where people, you know, had like kind of 10 rings on weapons, or one guy has like a 10 rings tattoo on his neck. And it's like, oh crap, they've been like seeding this for a while, you know. So they obviously kind of always knew what they wanted to do, and that just makes this even more special for me, and it just makes it more exciting, the fact that, you know, the 10 rings have kind of always been there. And you know, it goes back to your kind of point about the Mandarin's criminal empire, and you know, it suggests that the Mandarin will probably be some type of figure like that in this movie. And yeah, the fascinating thing will be to see how far his influence goes, and for how long it's been going for, you know. So yeah, man, definitely Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is one you absolutely need to check out, especially if you're a martial arts movie fan. So that one will be out February 2021. And me and Rich are definitely going to be there. Like, listen, Rich, don't do nothing stupid. Don't get yourself like February 2021. We're going to be there checking out Shang-Chi. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And this one, again, like, you know, Doctor Strange, I enjoyed the Doctor Strange movie, but I've not really been like kind of super excited about the further adventures of Doctor Strange at this point. I'm not sure why. You know, I enjoyed what he did in Avengers Infinity War in particular, and I think, you know, that's kind of how I remember Doctor Strange being used as a character in some of the comic books that I read. So I was kind of cool with that. And as I said, I liked the Doctor Strange movie, but I suppose I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But when I heard the title of this film, I was like, listen, okay, no, you know what? I need to see this fucking movie. Like, I need to see this shit. Like, what? So I said, to give the film its full title, it's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, for me, this just ticks so many boxes for me. One, because we Rich and I had talked on a previous podcast about Spider-Man Far From Home, which we unfortunately haven't been able to give a review of as yet, but we will be doing so. Stick with us and we'll get to it. But when we were talking about the trailer, we were talking about the reveal of the multiverse and the fact that the multiverse now exists in the MCU. And then if you've seen Homecoming, well, I guess if you haven't seen Far From Home, spoilers, because this is a big spoiler. But in the movie, it's revealed that Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, is lying about where he comes from. He's not from the multiverse at all. But when the title came up in Hall H at Comic-Con, Kevin Feige quite rightly pointed out, he said, just because Quentin Beck is a liar, that doesn't mean he was wrong. So he confirmed that the multiverse does actually exist, and that we're going to be exploring it in the next Doctor Strange movie. The director, Scott Derrickson, came out as well, and he said that he wants to make a horror movie. So they've agreed to do that. And then there was a funny bit where somebody in the audience shouted at Kevin Feige, "Is it going to be R-rated?" And Kevin Feige immediately fired back and said, "No, it's going to be PG-13 and you're going to like it." And that actually made me laugh. But I'm really kind of excited about the idea of this movie because, a lot of people, I think, were expecting maybe the first Doctor Strange movie would have more horror elements to it, and it didn't quite really. Although I can perfectly understand why they wouldn't do that in his first movie, because you kind of need to set the tone and the pace and familiarize people with the kinds of worlds that Doctor Strange deals with. So yeah, it would probably be far too early to kind of commit to that from the first movie. But now everybody knows who Doctor Strange is and what he's about. Plunging him into the multiverse to confront all kinds of terrors and craziness is frankly, is very, very exciting to me. Rich, I mean, I know there's a villain in particular that you'd like to see in this movie, so why don't you tell the people about Nightmare?
Yeah. So basically, Nightmare he's one of those. It's really, really weird because the reason why I'm excited about this film is because it's opening up a whole level of villains that we've never really seen in the Marvel universe, and you're going to be getting villains that are not even from this universe or from this dimension. Well, they're from this universe, but not from this dimension. And dimensions is something that we've only like really kind of tinkered with or tampered with in Doctor Strange. But there's different dimensions where people rule certain dimensions, and they're not people to be played with, man. Like you've got you've got like a character like Mephisto, who's just it's the thing about Mephisto and a lot of these other characters as well is that they're bad guys, but some of them aren't even necessarily evil. Some of them are just mean people who are bored, and they'd be like, yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna go fuck with this person. Like with a character like Mephisto, he'll be like, yeah, I'm bored, I've got this demon that I keep in my back closet called Mephistos. No, sorry, not Mephistos, Zatharos. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna go graft that demon onto somebody and just watch him wreak havoc, and at the end of it, just get that person's soul. I'm gonna do that just because I'm bored, just because I like to collect souls. And then you've got like a character like Nightmare, who basically just feeds off the fear of everybody that lives, in the universe, or basically, let's say, more Earth. And he just goes just hunting and just collecting all the fear and just going around just causing havoc. But in his dimension where he lives, he can control anything and everything. He can create life, he can destroy life. This is going to be a fucking head trip. Because the first Doctor Strange was super trippy. Yeah. Like the first Doctor Strange is one of, I think it could be in my top five Marvel films. Like it was just so on point for what Doctor Strange is and what he should be bringing, or like bringing that different aspect into this universe that we've missed. We've got like the science fiction part with Iron Man and so forth, and we've got the kind of like the ground level of like what happens in the government of like Captain America, and then then we've got the gods with like Thor and everything, and then we're gonna have like bona fide dimension hopping magic. This is gonna be crazy. This is going to be crazy. Yeah, I'm super excited for this. And the fact that it's got Scarlet Witch in it.
Yeah, I mean, they Marvel brought out Elizabeth Olsen onto the stage and confirmed that Wanda Maximoff will be in this movie as well. And it was kind of strongly, well, not even strongly hinted. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to the Disney Plus TV shows, but Kevin Feige kind of made it clear that basically, by the time Wanda appears in this movie, she will be full on Scarlet Witch, as in, she'll fully kind of have embraced her powers. And, how the process she goes to get to that will be explored in the TV show that's coming out, that, as said, Rich and I will get to in a moment. But, it's going to be fascinating to see her alongside Stephen Strange, going through the multiverse and, as you said, confronting all manner of crazy powered beings. And then on top of that, you throw in Carl Mordo in the mix as well.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to be out there doing his thing as well. So it just really sounds like this is going to be, as Richard said, a whole trip. If you found Doctor Strange 1 a trip, this is going to be a whole nother trip right here. And it's going to be a horror movie. Yes, it's going to be a PG-13 horror movie. And, some people were kind of griping on social media, as they do, because that's what social media does, about the fact that it's not R-rated and it can't be a horror movie if it's not R-rated. And I was just like, really? Like, and you call yourself a horror movie fan, and what, you've never seen horror movies that are PG-13, or for a UK context, that are 12 rating or a 15 rating? I can think of a couple just off the top of my head. Some of them which were really good, like the Nicole Kidman movie. Oh god, like, I've now forgotten the name, but the one where she and her kids move into a house and are being terrorized by like ghosts and stuff in the house.
The Hour. No, the Hours. Is it Hours?
No, not the Hours. Is it The Outsiders or something like that? I really can't remember the name, which is shameful. But yeah, it was really, really good movie, really well done, and that was like a 12. When that came out, there was no blood and guts in it. But it was really like quite tense and quite scary because of how well it had been filmed and put together. And the director of Doctor Strange, Scott Derrickson, has got background in horror.
The Others.
The Others. That's it. Yeah, The Others. Thank you. So he's got a background in horror, so like the guy knows what he's doing. So give it a chance and watch a trailer at least, and then draw your conclusions. But as I said, for me, I'm excited for that. Rich is excited for it. That one will be out on May the 7th, 2021. So we've got a couple of years to wait for that, unfortunately. But it sounds like it's going to be worth the wait, definitely. And then the final movie that was confirmed is one that was rumored in the press, and that is 4, or to give it its proper name, 4 Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Now they had a big kind of razzmatazz. They had a logo reveal for it, which was pretty awesome as well. It really kind of had that kind of big stadium heavy metal band look to the logo, which I love. And they dropped a couple of bombs with that one as well. Yeah, a couple of bombs with that one. So Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok, which is one of the funniest films I've ever seen, man. I love that movie so much. Like, seriously, it's one of my favorite comedies now. It's just easily. So Taika Waititi came out and he talked a little bit about kind of what would be influencing the movie and some of the ideas. So he kind of confirmed that Korg will be back. and Meek will be back as well. So
Yeah.
that made me very happy. He confirmed as well that Tessa Thompson's character Valkyrie, Broomhilda, is still the King of Asgard, as Thor anointed her at the end of Avengers Endgame. And she confirmed that, the first thing she's going to do is look for a queen, which was their way of basically confirming that they're going to have their first LGBTQ movie character in the MCU.
Yeah.
Well, not the first.
Hero.
I mean, yeah, because Joe Russo's cameo was probably the first, but certainly the first superhero that will be LGBTQ. So that was kind of a big, a said bombshell, because for a long time people have wanted to see more LGBTQ representation within the MCU, and it looks like we're finally going to get it. And Tessa Thompson's awesome. I love her as Valkyrie. I think she was amazing. So anytime I get to see me some more of her, I'm down. And the other bombshell they dropped was that Taika Waititi has been taking his inspiration from the most recent run of the Mighty Thor. And one of the key things of, certainly, I think it was more towards the early part of Jason Aaron's run, was it?
No, it was about halfway through Jason Aaron's run.
Halfway. Okay, yeah. Right. So halfway through Jason Aaron's comic book run of the Mighty Thor, he introduced Thor, or Lady Thor, or Female Thor. I mean, just Thor is fine, but basically Thor as Jane Foster. And so when Taika said that, the audience was like, "Whoa, we're gonna get like Lady Thor, what?" And then he was like, "Well, there's only one person who can play that," and then out comes Natalie Portman. And I was like, wait, I swear to God, Natalie Portman said like she's done with this team. She's finished. Yeah. She ain't doing this no more.
They wrote her out of the films.
Yeah. I mean, they basically wrote her character out, as you said, because she kind of said she was done. But then, lo and behold, they said they brought her out, and there she was, and she's going to be playing Mighty Thor.
Yeah.
She'll be playing Mighty Thor in Thor: Love and Thunder, and my mind is blown, because I said I was not expecting them to bring her out at all.
Yeah.
I was assuming, maybe it would be Valkyrie, or they might, introduce a new actor to the part. But there she was, and so she's going to be, as I said, Mighty Thor in this movie. So a couple of bombshells there. But Rich, I mean, I know you're a big fan of Jason Aaron's work on Thor in general, and what he's kind of done with that world. So could you just again, for the benefit of those who maybe haven't read the comic book run, explain a little bit about how Jane Foster becomes Thor, and kind of what role she plays in the Marvel comics?
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically what I'm going to say is this. First and foremost, anybody that hasn't read Jason Aaron's run on Thor, seriously, go and pick it up now. Just start. Like, it doesn't even start off with Jane Foster as being Thor. It starts off with him. Wow. Like, Jesus, his storytelling on Thor, I haven't read a good Thor storyline like that in a good few years. Like, not a good few, like in years. I mean, we had like decent storylines of them, with like, maybe, there's Guardians moving down to, to the planet Earth and living, in New Kansas or wherever, or Texas or something like that. That wasn't bad. But what Jason Aaron did with this run, like, he reminds me of like Jonathan Hickman. Like, when they write stories, they don't write short game, they write long game. So, I mean, Jason Aaron's run, the total run of his storylines, I think it's like 5 years, 6 years, but it's just one continuous story. And then he then starts to create all these ideas and leak them into like the rest of like Marvel comic books. So this isn't just centered on Thor. Like, you find out that Thor has fought against like the person who created the Venom symbiote. He fought him years ago when he was a kid. He wasn't even able to hold Mjolnir yet. But these are the type of stories that he was writing. But anyway, halfway through, our Thor basically loses the ability to pick up his hammer. And in his place, there always has to be a Thor. If you can't be Thor, then somebody else can. And what people seem to forget is that Thor is always going to be Thor, technically, even if he hasn't got the hammer. But only a person that's worthy can pick up the hammer, and people always forget it's all power. No, you have to be somebody very, very special to be able to pick up the hammer. The hammer needs to find you. You know, it has to approve you. And we've known, obviously, in the MCU, we know that Odin can pick it up because it's him that put the enchantment on the hammer. Or well, basically, the hammer allows him to pick it up. There's been a bit of a retcon. We know that the Vision can pick up the hammer because he's a symbiote, and probably because he'd only been awake for like an hour. So there was no concept of good or evil in him for the hammer to not find him worthy. So then by default, he's able to pick it up. And then obviously we've got old good American, the America's ass, Captain America, who's super worthy, who can pick it up, and use as is. And then basically there always has to be a Thor if there's nobody worthy to pick up the hammer. And I think Thor's mother basically calls down or sends the beacon down to Jane Foster and tells her to come up and pick the hammer up and to become Thor. Now, the kicker to this is that Jane Foster at this point is suffering from cancer. And she's refused all type of medication from Thor and the Asgardians to cure the cancer completely. Not if they try and battle it, they can just cure it completely. But because she's always worked in the medical profession and she's seen people live and die and she's helped people, survive death or help people ease their way into death, she's an amazing person. She's worthy. So that's why she's able to pick up the hammer. Now, the thing is, every time she changes into Thor, she obviously has the same powers as Thor, and she's just a female Thor. But every time she strikes the hammer down and changes back to Jane Foster, whatever chemotherapy she's had during that period before she changed, it reverts back to zero. So if she's at stage 4, basically what happens is that she changes into Thor, she's superhuman powered. When she changes back into Jane Foster, it doesn't go back to like just normal stage 4. It might be like stage 4.1. So every time she's using this power to do good because the hammer finds her worthy, it finds her worthy because she's doing the right thing, because she's helping all these millions of people throughout the universe. But every time she changes back to normal, she's slowly dying because the cancer's taken over her body. So it's this double-edged sword where she's got this need to do good, where she's just not confined to a hospital. And then you've got the hammer that finds Jane Foster worthy, and we find out that the hammer has a form of sentience. It's like it understands things, and it finds Jane Foster so worthy that Jane Foster can do things that Odin couldn't do with a hammer, or Thor couldn't do with a hammer, because it didn't respect them enough to allow them to do particular things. It's an amazing story. It's so good. But I mean, if Taika Waititi can bring in just a little bit of that into this Love and Thunder film, we're blessed. We're blessed. We're blessed. But like I said, anybody who hasn't read Jason Aaron's run of Thor, go and pick it up. Go pick it up.
Yeah, definitely, listeners. Take that recommendation as read from us. Go and check out that comic book series. It is amazing. I haven't finished it, but I have read parts of it, and what I read of it blew me away. So you've absolutely got to go and check that out for sure. So that will be out with us in November 2021. God, these films feel so far away, man. But in the meantime, we do have some new additions to the Marvel Studios lineup, and these will be TV shows. We don't know exactly how long or how many episodes they're going to be. The rumor is there'll be about 6 episodes each for each show. But they're being treated as Marvel Studios productions. That means they're going to have high budgets. So you won't be getting no TV level CGI and things like that. They're going all in on these. And they'll be released exclusively on Disney's new streaming platform, Disney Plus. So yeah, another reason for you to fork out some more money for a streaming service. But it looks like there's some quite interesting titles that are coming up on here. The first one that we'll get is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We didn't get, again, a lot of detail about this from the panel. They were obviously trying to keep everything under wraps. But it's rumored to kind of be about kind of how Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes kind of adjust to life without Steve Rogers around and kind of post Avengers Endgame world. and kind of confronting different, challenges and different threats as they come about. It was interesting that they didn't give us any kind of concept designs or anything like that, in terms of what Falcon and Winter Soldier are going to look like in the TV show. But one reveal that we did get was that Zemo from Captain America Civil War will be the main villain of the show. And they did like a really cool thing where the actors were talking on stage, and then like the lights just blacked out. And then you heard Zemo's voice saying the phrases from Captain America Civil War to trigger Bucky. And then he came on screen and he was kind of dressed. You couldn't see fully how he was dressed, but I don't know if you've seen the pictures yet, Rich, but you can see kind of like his face and his shoulders. Yeah. And from his shoulders, you can see he's wearing like a kind of fur-lined jacket, a bit like what he wears in the comics. And then there's a still of him with the purple mask on as well. So they've actually kind of gone and embraced the character's roots. And, I'm really excited for this show, partly because I quite enjoyed the Sam Wilson as Captain America comic book run that I read recently. So I'm interested to see kind of how the show deals with that. I'm interested in, where the Winter Soldier is at as well. But mostly I'm interested in Zemo, because Zemo was such a good character from Civil War. I mean, effectively, he was a terrorist. That's what he was. Yeah. And it meant that his character was just super duper grounded. So, even with all the kind of crazy superhero shenanigans in that movie, there was always a sense that he was a real threat, because he was not some guy who could chuck fireballs and this and that and the other. He was a guy who was smart, who had to kind of outthink, the Avengers. He couldn't use his might to do it. And so to me, that's what I really am looking forward to with that, But yeah, what's your thoughts on the TV series? I mean, is it something that's kind of interesting you in terms of what you've learned so far? I mean, I know it's not a lot, but
yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Like, I'm excited in the relationship between the two, because I this is what I feel that I think we're going to get from it. Is very much going to be about them dealing with, with Baron Zemo being the villain. But I think you're going to get this throughout some of these films and throughout some of these TV shows. This is going to be there's going to be us seeing them dealing with stuff that's happened since the blip, as they now call it. So it's them more adjusting to certain things. So, for example, I'm really interested in the relationship that's going to be between Falcon and Bucky. It's like they're guys that really shouldn't like each other, and they do like each other, but they don't like to show that they like each other. But they've got that mutual respect for Steve Rogers, and so they know that they've got a position to fill. I like that. I like to. I want to see how that relationship's gonna flourish without the glue between the two of them. They're two characters that would have laid down their lives for Steve. Single-handedly. And now that person isn't around, technically they don't really need to hang out, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to what I hope happens, is that we see a bit more of a human side to Bucky, because he's been awake now for a little while. We've seen that he's had a bit of like brainwashing with the help of the Wakandans, so I'd like to feel that he's becoming more adjusted to life now, the same way how Captain America became adjusted to life over a certain amount of time. When you watch the films, he'll always have that center core of like Steve Rogers, but he's adjusted to the times that, we're not in the 1940s anymore. There's a lot more red tape and things like that, but it's made me more human now that I realized my surroundings. I'm more used to it. I'll always be a man out of time, but I'm more used to it now. So I'm looking forward to that happening to him, but then at the same time having a character like Zemo, who has that one thing, which I can only imagine that once Bucky's adjusted to this thing, his fear of what Zemo has over him. I want to see Winter Soldier be the Winter Soldier with the Falcon, but I want to see the bad Winter Soldier pop out at some point. I want this to be equivalent of like when Angel used to have perfect euphoria by having sex in Buffy, and then he becomes Angelus, and then for like a little while he's just running around doing bad shit because he just want to be like, yeah man, do some bad shit, and then I want to see it be good again. I want to see that side. I want to see them explore, you know, how he's adjusting and how he's dealing with things. Especially now that he needs to learn how to trust people. This is going to be really, really, really good TV show, I think. Then on the flip side, you've got the Falcon, who's got this, this undying allegiance to, once again, this person that's the only thing that was keeping him together. But not just that, but he's now become his own hero. The person that he looked up to and would lay his life down for, he is now that person. Everybody now follows him. His word technically might be bond between a lot of people that wouldn't normally come together, because he's been given the A-OK by this person who had that position formerly. That's a lot of pressure. Take into account that Falcon's backstory is that one of the reasons why he left his unit is because he lost his partner. So already we know that he's a leader, but he's lost somebody under his leadership. So now he's happy being, the second in command and following that person. He's now been put into that position of having to lead not just, a little group, but technically thousands of millions of people. He has a nation following him. This is gonna be a good show, man.
Yeah,
A good show.
Definitely. So, yep, that's one to look out for, listeners. We don't have a release date for that yet. I guess it will be confirmed when Disney Plus finally launches, which is, I think, in the US in November of this year. So, at some point we'll find out, but it will be some point in 2020 is when the series is expected to drop. The next one that they've got lined up for us is called WandaVision. Now, this one, by the title, you would have guessed, will feature Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, and it looks like some type of return for the Vision, because Paul Bettany was there on the stage as well, and apparently this series is kind of crazy. They were leaning in very heavily to the fact that this series is going to be a bit weird, and they've taken a bit of a risk with this one. They weren't willing to give away too much information at all, other than that, tonally it will really shift throughout the episodes. They confirmed that it is 6 episodes for this one, and that tonally there's going to be like a lot of wild tonal shifts, and it's going to explore like kind of a lot of different themes, but again, they really were playing clever and trying not to give away the ghost too much. Some people have speculated that it's based on the comic book series, The Visions, that came out recently, where Vision kind of tries to have like a normal American life and builds himself a family of Visions. So some people have said it may follow the tone of that, because the tone of that apparently is quite offbeat and off the wall. They may also obviously lean into a bit of Scarlet Witch's kind of comic book history and the fact that her and Vision had children at one point, and all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, we can expect everything and anything from this TV series, it looks like, to be honest. And one of the big announcements that they did give away was that the series will also feature a character that everybody would have been introduced to first in Captain Marvel, and that is Monica Rambeau. Now that's a big reveal. I was like, wow, okay, like you've not told us anything about the plot or anything like that, but you're telling us Monica Rambeau is in this as well. Like, Jesus, like that's a big one. So yeah, I mean, Rich, in Captain Marvel, you don't really get a sense of why the name Monica Rambeau is one that's quite entwined with Marvel Comics history and it's quite important. So, for those that don't know, could you explain a little bit about, from a comic book point of view, who Monica Rambeau is and why she's important?
Well, basically, Monica Rambeau in the comic books was the first. Well, the first. Don't be silly. Slap myself. Was
Well, no, I know what you mean, but she was the first, basically the first woman to take the mantle of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that's correct. And not that I say it's important, but it is important. She was also black. So she was a black female who took on the mantle of Captain Marvel when the original Captain Marvel passed away from cancer. And she was like a prominent character. She's been on the Avengers team. She's had her own limited series. She's been on the West Coast Avengers. She's been around for quite some time, and I mean, I'm really interested to see what they're gonna do with her because I mean, obviously she have the Captain Marvel title now. She actually lost it originally in the comics to. In fact, was it? No, she didn't lose it. She didn't. She lost it to Janice Bell, who was the original Captain Marvel's son. And basically, the reason why she gave it to him is she was like, "Listen, like I took the name means a lot more to you than it does to me, although I have had it for quite some time. But I'll just find my own name." And she basically ends up calling herself Photon. So what it is that Monica Rambeau's power, whether she's called Captain Marvel or whether she's called Photon, is that she's able to control and to change herself into any form of energy on a particular spectrum. So she can make herself to be like you know, X-ray power. So like there's certain X-rays have like certain electromagnetic powers. She can change herself into like pure light, but there's different types of light. So she can control infrared. She's a pretty badass character for real. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to bring her into this and if she's going to get those type of powers. Or yeah, it's going to be odd. Is it going to be a Monica Rambeau? In fact, is it going to be a Monica Rambeau from our MCU, or is it going to be a Monica Rambeau from another MCU? Because it's been rumored that, unless you said this already, the TV show is linked directly to Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange sequel, which is obviously about, which are going to be exploring the multiverse. So this is Marvel they've really stepped up their game with this Phase 4, man. Because I had when I'm saying out loud, I just remember I had worries. I was like, man, they've lost RDJ, they've lost Chris Evans. I mean, I can't see not Chris Pine, Chris Hemsworth staying for too long. They've lost Scarlett Johansson. I mean, Jeremy Renner, you're pretty cool, but they still haven't really shown you the respect I think you deserve. And Hawkeye, are you going to stay on because you might get a bit upset? We're just going to be left with these new people. And then they unveiled this Phase 4, and I just went, "Yeah, Rich, you're a fool. How dare you? How dare you doubt them? Don't stand in the corner with a dunce hat."
Yeah, don't ever doubt Mr. Feige. He knows what he's doing. Or as Kevin Smith calls him, our fearless leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, you're right. I mean, going back to Monica Rambeau, yeah, it's really fascinating that they've chosen to include her in this show. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, she was part of the Ultimates as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, the Ultimates. Yeah, one
that came out with. Yeah,
she was the lead of the Ultimates. Yeah, she's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so it'll be very, very interesting to see. And as Rich said, this series that Kevin Feige confirmed that this series is basically tied to the Doctor Strange sequel. So the things that they address in this TV show will, have repercussions for the Doctor Strange movie. So again, when I learned this title last year, I was kind of like, WandaVision, what the hell? But now I've kind of seen a teeny window into what they're doing. I'm kind of like, damn, like, why did I doubt them? I'm the same as you. I'm just like, why did I doubt? Like, I'm a fool, I'm a fool. We're all fools. But WandaVision is due out sometime in 2021. Again, they haven't given any like release dates for the TV shows, obviously because they're all appearing on the Disney Plus platform. So we'll have to wait and see what date comes out for that. I'm sure we'll find out some more over the coming months. The next show that they introduced to us was Loki. Now this is one we've known about for a little while. I think pretty much when Disney Plus was announced, they announced that there was going to be a Loki TV show straight away. And Tom Hiddleston was there at the panel on Hall H, and everybody was going nuts for him as they usually do. And it was interesting because he said that they obviously again didn't give away any details at all about plot, but he said, bear in mind that the last time you saw Loki, it was Loki at the end of Avengers Endgame, who has disappeared with the Tesseract. And bear in mind that this Loki is not the same as the Loki that you saw grow into a different person by for the Dark World, and then for Ragnarok, and then kind of completing his redemption in Avengers Infinity War. He said this is a totally different character. This is a character who just had his ass kicked by the Hulk and is pissed, and now he's got the power of the Tesseract in his hand. So the fun kind of comes from watching what Loki does with the Tesseract, and it's been hinted that there'll be time travel involved, and that he'll appear at different events in human history. We don't know what he's going to get up to, but he is the god of mischief, so you have to assume, again, a pissed off Loki is going to be up to no good with the Tesseract. But it could be a fun show. This one, I think I am looking forward to. I'm not as excited as some of the other shows, but I'm interested. I am interested to see kind of what that type of Loki is going to do if, as the rumors are true, he pops up at different events in human history. Rich, how about you? How are you feeling about the Loki TV show?
You know what? I think this is the one that I wasn't too fussed about. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like I'm happy that we've got Loki back. But then at the same time, it's like I suppose this is how he is in the comic, though, isn't he? It's like he's got the back and forth thing, and maybe they can bring him back to being like a really good villain. I really now was like the good guy, and I got being the good guy. Like in Thor Ragnarok, he was perfect, and so to change it back to like that evil Loki, I'm like, but we're just going back on a character that we've seen development with. Because the one thing I've always said is that before Loki became good, he was a really well written villain, and I think a lot of people seem to forget that, and they forget that because he then became this caricature of himself, which is still a good, still a good version of him, but then remember where the characters come from. But if you remember that evolution, do we really want to go back to that? I don't know. Like I'm just the only thing that I'm excited about is just to see Tom Hiddleston play the character, but I'm not. I think this is something that I could be like, yeah, I don't really need it. I just like Tom Hiddleston, but I could go back and just rewatch the films where he plays a really good Thor version, Loki, and then just be happy with that because they're all good, performances. I don't know. I'm just not super excited about it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair enough. As said, I'm not overly excited by it, but but I suppose I'm curious. They've piqued my curiosity, so I'll definitely at least watch the first episode. And see what they've got planned for us there. But yeah, Loki. I think we're lukewarm on Loki. We're not necessarily red hot on Loki, but yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, Tom Hiddleston's back, and he's a very charming actor, and as Rich said, he did a great job with the character of Loki across the movie. So we wait and see what they have in store for us. The next show, which is also due out in 2021, is called What If. Now, this one is one that I think I'll let Rich go in on because this is very much kind of based on comic books and comic book lore and comic book background. So, Rich, what kind of, I guess, just explain a little bit about what the What If series was or it is really.
Well, basically, the What If series. Well, I mean, once we go into this, you hopefully you guys have been listening, have been paying attention, and you'll see there's a common theme that's been running since, let's say, Avengers Endgame, no, Avengers Infinity War. So What If is based on a comic book series, which it's had various like volumes throughout the years. But it always opens with a character called the Watcher. So there's a character called Uatu the Watcher, and the Watcher is from a race of beings called the Watchers. And what it is that each Watcher will belong to a particular universe, and they will then just watch that universe and record everything that's happening in that universe from the beginning of time. And what they do in their spare time is that they basically just look at other universes that are being run by other Watchers, and so each issue would be unless it was a continuation or like let's say a multi-part story, each issue would be a standalone story set in a particular universe where things are slightly different. So, for example, there might be one story where, oh, I'll tell you a couple of famous stories. The famous story would be like, what if the Silver Surfer had possessed the Infinity Gauntlet? So, what would happen is that they took the original story of the Infinity Gauntlet, but at some point in that story, something changes ever so slightly, and that's what basically sets off a multiversal branch from this being one universe into like now another universe, and it all stem. So all of these other multiverses stem from one place. So if you guys aren't understanding what I'm saying, go back and watch Avengers Endgame again, and when the Ancient One is explaining to Doctor or Professor Hulk how the multiverse works, it's pretty much like that. So you have one universe, and every time something or a paradox happens, a branch will come off that branch, and a branch will come off that branch. So let's say, for example, that in one universe, you could have instead of the end of end game, you get instead of Tony Stark getting the gems back away from Thanos, he doesn't get the gems. So it could be like the story would be, what if Thanos had kept the Infinity Gauntlet, and probably what would happen is that he would have killed XYZ. Then you can tell this whole brand new story without it having any form of lasting consequences in our main universe that we know and love and read and watch. So basically, there's going to be some crazy stories out there, I'm sure of it, because they can literally write anything, and it might upset some people. I'm sure, to be honest, a lot of the stories are going to excite a lot of people because everybody has something that they wish could, maybe happen different in any of the films or any of the stories that we know. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there who would be like, well, I want to know what would have happened if Incredible Hulk had fought Thanos for the second time. Like you can do anything and just keep people happy. I haven't heard any of the titles for any of the episodes, Jay. So I don't know if you have. If you have,
No. I mean, again, they're keeping it stum, so they really haven't given much details at all. All we know at the moment is that, as Rich explained, the what if concept is basically going to be a series of episodes based around what might have happened if certain events had gone differently in the MCU. Now, this series is going to be animated, so it will be animated rather than live action. But Kevin Feige confirmed that most of the people who have played roles within the MCU are returning to provide their voice for characters as well. So there'll be no kind of difference there. And in the cases where they haven't been able to get returns for them, I'm sure they'll just get what's his name, Ross Marquand, the guy who was Red Skull, to just do everybody's voice because he did bloody Red Skull so brilliantly. So I'm sure they'll think of ways to work around it for those that don't return. But there's very little in the way of hints, although some sharp-eyed people have noticed that if you look at the official logo they released for What If, if you zoom in on the top left-hand corner of the W, you can see a zombie Captain America in the corner.
Oh yeah.
So possibly that we might be getting some Marvel zombies thrown in there in the mix, maybe, for those that are familiar with that comic book arc. So that might be in the mix. The Watcher is being voiced by Jeffrey Wright, who was in Westworld and is Felix. He's Felix in the Bond movies, right, as well.
Yeah, Felix Leiter.
Yeah, Felix Leiter in the Bond movies, and he's done loads of other stuff as well.
He's in Sharpie as well. He plays Peoples, man.
Yeah, Peoples. Peoples Hernandez. Yeah. Yeah, so you'll recognize it definitely. You'll know the voice as soon as you hear it. And he's a great choice for Uatu because he's got that kind of gravelly kind of voice that immediately kind of it projects gravitas and knowledge. So that's exactly the type of person you want as the Watcher. So yeah, that's a really good choice they made there. But yeah, no, they're keeping the details very secret on that one. So again, we'll have to wait and see what they have lined up for us. But again, that will be launching in 2021 on the Disney Plus streaming service. And the last TV series that we got an announcement for is one that I think Rich is really excited for. I'm kind of excited for as well, purely because of the title card and the way that they've done it, and they've done it in a certain way. Rich is going to explain why that's significant in just a sec. But it is a Hawkeye TV series. It will be starring Jeremy Renner, who will be returning to the role of Hawkeye. And they've also announced that in the series, Hawkeye will be mentoring a character called Kate Bishop. Now, as said, that name is very significant, and the logo that they've released is very significant for a reason. And I'm going to let Rich explain that reason why, because I know he's super, super excited. But Rich, just fill the people in, man, on what they're missing out on.
Listen, the way I'm excited for this show, like I've said before on previous shows before, and even if not on this one, then on our other show that we do also do called the Bebop Rewatch. If you guys haven't listened to that, listen to it soon. Tune in. We're like episode 9 is where we do like a review of Cowboy Bebop. Quick little plug there. But yeah, I have a list of tattoos that I'm gonna get, and I've been thinking of years of how I can get like a Hawkeye tattoo on me without it looking, with it just looking awesome. And I keep on looking back to this run of the Hawkeye comic, written by Matt Fraction, and basically with the art by David Aja. He's a Spanish artist, and it is one of the best comic book runs I've read ever, and it's what made me actually enjoy the character of Hawkeye. So that's why I was quite upset with the way how Hawkeye's been portrayed throughout the MCU. And obviously they did the whole turnaround and they did manage to appease that a little bit by turning Hawkeye into the character of Ronin when his family passed away. But but this one seems to be based on like the Matt Fraction run, and it's basically, you just find out that Hawkeye is just literally a normal guy. Like, he was friends with Natasha and everything, but I think what we're gonna get from Natasha's training back in the day when she was part of like the KGB and Secret Service and things, like, she was built for this life. She may be a bit scared here and there, but she was, she's seen some shit already. No matter what, that's the reason why she's able to, calm down the Hulk, and also able to outthink characters like Loki. Like, she's been around for a little while, and even though her and Hawkeye get on and Hawkeye's been around for a little while, he's still only just a guy. He doesn't have the super suit. He hasn't got like a super soldier serum. He's still, like, the best way to describe it is that the speech that he gives in Avengers Age of Ultron to Scarlet Witch when she's scared to go out, and he's like, I'm on a floating city fighting against robots with a bow and arrow. Nothing gets crazier than that. And in this run, he just always has that. You find out that he's always plagued by self-doubt. And then you get this character called Kate Bishop, who's younger than him, and she's essentially ends up being a better archer than him. So he's like, shit, I've found someone that's better than me, but I'm never going to admit that she's better than me. But she wants to enter this game, so I'm now going to train her. I'm going to mentor her. And it's just this relationship of these two guys who are just as bad as each other, but have this, unspoken love between them, like brother and sister. And they just get into scraps and just get into trouble. And I really hope this is going to be a good show. This is a show that's got me for reals. For reals, with an S on the end. I'm not even joking, man.
With a Z on the end, man.
With a Z on the end. So but they've said that we're going to explore the history that we don't get to see of that period when Clint Barton, who is Hawkeye, was when he gave up that title and he was running around doing Ronin stuff. So I'm really excited about that, because I thought he was gonna be Ronin throughout the whole of Endgame. To be honest, I really wanted to see that dark side of him, but we only see it that bit when he's taking out the Yakuza, and then after that he just becomes a bit of a good guy again. But I really want to see him go down that dark path, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as Rich has outlined there, the reason why the title card or the the actual image that they're using to promote this is so significant is because it's the same image, that's the same logo that's used on the comic book run My Life as a Weapon, by Matt Fraction, as Rich said. And it really is a fantastic comic book run. So if we are getting an adaptation of this, I'm going to be super happy. There's really only a couple of things I want to see from this show. I want to see Hawkeye in a purple t-shirt with jeans and some Converse on, and his bow strapped across his chest, with with plasters across his nose. I want to see, I want to see Kate Bishop. I want to see Kate Bishop just killing it as an archer. And I want him to go up against Rustling Gangsters in red Adidas tracksuits and say, "Come on, bro!
Come on, bro! Come on!" And they drive Beetles.
They drive Volkswagen Beetles. This is not cool, bro. You better bring the money back, bro. Oh my god, like, listeners, you gotta read the comic. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. It really is. So yeah, make sure you go and check out My Life as a Weapon, and read that in time for when that series comes out, because as said, if the series is going to be based on that comic book run, my goodness, we're in for quite the ride. And that's it. That was all we got for Phase 4. Well, that was the entirety of Phase 4. So Phase 4 will be lasting for 2 years. Kind of, 2 years. So 2020 and 2021. So yeah. So we got all of that information. Then Kevin Feige said at the end that, they didn't even have time really to talk about the Fantastic Four, or to talk about Black Panther 2, or to talk about Captain Marvel 2, or to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, or to talk about Mutants, which everybody kind of popped for. And I'm assuming that we'll find some more information out about that at the Disney convention that's coming up, D23, which will be in August. So yeah, I'm assuming we'll get something. I don't know if we'll get like a full-on information dump like we got here. It may just be more kind of hints and costume designs and things like that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll find out something at D23 as to what they're working on with those. So if you're a fan of those, then those are coming in the future. But as Kevin Feige is the ultimate showman, he had one little last trick up his sleeve. He introduced Mahershala Ali to the stage. And he revealed a baseball cap, and they posted up the Blade logo, or a new logo for a Blade movie from Marvel Studios, that apparently will be coming in Phase 5, and everybody lost their shit in the room. Like, everybody literally went bananas when the Blade logo came up. Like, it was as loud a pop as when they did the Batman v Superman logo reveal. Yeah, it was as loud as that. Like, there were literally people going, "Holy shit!" Like, so yeah, we're getting a brand new Blade movie in Phase 5. And I'm just like, I'm jazzed. I'm jazzed that Blade is back. I'm glad that Blade is in the MCU. I have not a lot of expectations of the movie or the plot at this point. I think because it's still very early days, so there's not a lot for us to kind of go off of. But Mahershala Ali is a terrific actor, a 2-time Academy Award winner. I haven't watched his season of True Detective yet, but to all intents and purposes, he's absolutely brilliant in that. I was a big fan of him in Moonlight as well. I thought he was fantastic in Moonlight, which he won his first Oscar for. And the guy definitely brings chops. There's no question about that. So it's just a case of waiting to see what they do in terms of character design and kind of action and atmosphere and things like that. But and also, of course, how they're going to explain the existence of vampires in the MCU, like that. That is a madness. I mean, I'm assuming that, again, it will, going back to that Doctor Strange movie, that given that movie is going to be dealing with different dimensions and the multiverse and things like that maybe there's something there, or maybe even, who knows, it might even be that it's something to do with the Eternals and things that have been going on for centuries on Earth and have maybe just been flying under the radar, and now all of a sudden, because of the events of what happens in Doctor Strange, it triggers something that brings vampires back to our world.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's any number of kind of directions they could go in, but yeah, I'm glad to see Blade back, man. Glad to see Blade back. Rich, how about you, man? I mean, how are you feeling about the rebirth of Blade?
Well, just like everyone else, I'm a big Blade fan. I'm not gonna lie though, I am a bit upset that Wesley is not coming back. But it wasn't until I googled him after, and I realized, like, I don't know, when you find out how old like some of your heroes or some of the people that you've been following for years are, you just like,
Yeah,
wow,
You don't realize
yeah,
until you actually look it up. Yeah, I did that as well.
yeah. And I was just like,
Yeah,
he's like 56. He's older than Robert Downey Jr.
yeah,
And Robert
yeah.
Downey Jr. left because he said he didn't want to be too old doing the same role,
Hmm,
and he's put a good 10 years in.
hmm.
It took him to, like, I think Robert Downey Jr. is what, 54 or 55?
Yes, yeah. He's about 54, isn't he? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so like he's retired in the MCU. You can't. I'm not sure you can really be getting somebody that age to then start in the MCU, especially when when you've got a certain amount of stuff to do, like, well, physical wise.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but then that's the thing. I know, Ali's an amazing actor, but physically, is he going to be able to bring it? And I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people will say that with the right trainer and and enough time, you can make this person a fighter. I mean, case in point, you look at, like, the cast of the Matrix. I always go back to that. You had people who were that knew nothing about martial arts, but then were made to look like martial artists, like accomplished martial artists on screen. And but then you still need that little something. People, I'm a fan of, like, Denzel Washington, for example. When he's shooting guns and he's running around, he's really good at doing that. But when it comes to that actual physical fighting, especially like when it comes to martial arts, I think he's okay, but he's just not built for that type of action. And for some reason, I'm not sure if I can see Ali doing that. So I'm really hoping that they go a different route of how they're going to portray this Blade character. Obviously, still stick to the fundamentals and the core of the character, but hopefully they don't just do like another, like, a version of Wesley Snipes. I can't see them doing that. If they do, it's going to be a big mistake, because you're going to have to tick every single box, and the
Yeah, yeah,
martial
yeah.
arts and the fighting style and the physical presence of it,
Mm.
that character is very much unique to Snipes. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I think that would be the one big error that potentially they could make, that they really need to avoid, which is trying to emulate, as you said, the Blade movies from sort of 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It would be crazy to try and do that. The best thing to do is to start again. This is, the slate has been wiped clean. You've got the rights back now. I think the Blade rights came back to Marvel Studios last year. I remember Marvel putting a little post up on
yeah, it
Marvel.com
was last year.
saying,
Yeah,
yeah, that they got the rights back. So this is an opportunity for you to approach a new audience, and to approach it in a different way, in a fresh way, and perhaps take a slightly different take. And as you said, Rich, if the kind of martial arts kung fu kicking Blade isn't quite an option with him, then maybe you can make him more just a vampire hunter, a guy who actually kind of like sets traps and stuff to catch vampires and things like that, rather than necessarily relying on martial arts ability to beat them down. But that said, as I always say, Marvel, like, they know what they're doing, man. Those guys just, they really haven't let us down. They really
yeah,
haven't,
yeah. True.
and they will go all in. Like, if they like you and they want you on board, they will make sure that they put the right team around you, so that you're doing what needs to be done. So the fact that they were able to make most of these actors who had no martial arts experience at all look like they could fight and do all of that, is testament to how much they and how seriously they take that side of their movies. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that one, because I said we don't know a lot about Mahershala Ali physically, and kind of what he can do from that point of view. So yeah, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for now, and we'll see. I mean, hopefully he's not another Finn Jones who spends most
Oh
of his time
Jesus, man! Why did
skipping.
you do that for?
Like, I had to do it. I had to get a little Finn Jones dig in there somewhere. But yeah, you know, hopefully that's not the situation. But again, I doubt it. Number one, they've got lots of time to sort that out. So you know, it's not like it's needs to be rushed out in the next 6 months. So they've got plenty of time to source the right trainers and you know, martial arts choreographers and people like that. As I said, if that's the road they're going down. So yeah, you know, we really need to be a little bit patient, even though I know people can't be, because Blade is such an iconic character and one that you know, a lot of people hold dear. But yeah, let's give it some time and see what our Lord and Savior Kevin Feige does for us with the new Blade movie. So that was pretty much it for Marvel's panel at Hall H. It was a stacked panel this year. As said, there was other stuff that went on at Comic-Con, but frankly, you know, me and Rich just weren't that into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, you know, we thought we'd stick with doing the Marvel stuff. So hopefully you've enjoyed listening, and hopefully we've been able to clear up a few things for you and clarify some details. But if we haven't, then you can get in touch with us and let us know. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. There'll be a short trail at the end of the podcast, so make sure you have a listen to that, and that will tell you how to get in touch with us. Aside from that, Rich earlier mentioned the Bebop Rewatch podcast. We did do a recording of this, and basically due to some fuckery with YouTube, we can't get hold of the recording at the moment, but I'm still working on it. And I'm going to try and put it up on the podcast channel at some point next week, because where there's a will, there's a way. So we're going to get that podcast out to you. And the Bebop Rewatch will be continuing as normal as well. So as soon as next week, I believe, we should be heading back there. We're hoping to have Jed join us as well. We'll just have to make sure Jed can clear his schedule. And then we'll get him on board for the next episode of the Bebop Rewatch. And as said, Wulong Talks is back, baby. We're back, so look out for us. I'm going to be making more of an effort now to be doing some more stuff with our socials, our social media, and all of that. So get following us on there, because you'll see more little tidbits. I'm even thinking of getting back in the blogging chair and writing a few blog posts, because I've got a few things swirling around in my head. So yeah, look out for those as well. You'll find that all on our website on wulongtalks.com. And yeah, that's it. I guess we're going to bring this episode to a close. So thanks a lot for listening. I'm going to say goodnight. Rich, say goodnight, man.
Good night.
And we'll see you again real soon, people. Take care of yourselves. Peace. Thanks for listening to us. If you're down with Wulong Talks, show some love by following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Wulong Talks. You can also find us online at www.wulongtalks.com or drop us an email at wulongtalkspodcast@gmail.com. We can also be found as part of the Britpod Scene Collective, and we're also officially E14 endorsed. Search for those hashtags to enjoy more content from us and from other great British podcasters.